I used to think moving to the suburbs would be the start of a quieter, better life. Fresh air, wide streets, neighbours who waved politely from their driveways. After years working as a paramedic in the city, all I wanted was peace. And for a while, I convinced myself I'd found it. Sabrina made it feel that way. She was this whirlwind of polished charm, always perfectly dressed, always knowing exactly what to say at neighbourhood barbecues. Everyone loved her. And honestly, at first, so did I. But there was Chloe, 8 years old, tiny for her age, with these big green eyes that would follow me like she was watching something she didn't trust. I tried everything. Brought her little gifts from the hardware store when I ran errands. Built a bookshelf in her room so she could display her stuffed animals. Even spent a weekend repainting her walls a pale lavender because Sabrina said it was her favourite colour. None of it worked. Whenever Sabrina left the room, Chloe would stiffen. And when she was out of the house completely, the tears would come. Not loud sobbing, just quiet, trembling tears that soaked her cheeks while she tried to hide them with the sleeve of her hoodie. I remember the first time I saw it. Sabrina had gone to take a phone call in the backyard. I was just sitting at the kitchen table scrolling through invoices on my laptop when I noticed Chloe, frozen in the hallway, clutching the railing like she was holding on for dear life. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "What's wrong, Chloe?" I asked, keeping my voice soft, careful. She shook her head hard, like even acknowledging the question was dangerous. Then she turned and disappeared into her room. Later, I mentioned it to Sabrina. She was standing by the kitchen island, slicing limes for her evening gin and tonic. She didn't even pause, just smirked and said, "She's slow to warm up to people. It was just us for so long. Don't take it personally, Ethan. She just doesn't like you yet." She laughed, like it was some inside joke I wasn't in on. I laughed too, but it felt wrong. The way she said it wasn't frustrated. It was amused, almost. Pleased. Like Chloe being afraid of me was somehow entertaining. Still, I tried harder. I made her pancakes on Saturday mornings, even learned how to shape them into little animals. I left notes in her lunchbox, simple things like, "Good luck on your spelling quiz. Proud of you," hoping she'd see I cared. I offered bedtime stories, even when she wouldn't answer me. But nothing changed. If anything, it got worse. She'd keep her back to me on the couch, her little body stiff like she was bracing for something. She started locking her bedroom door when Sabrina was gone. I told myself it was just an adjustment phase. Blended families were hard. Sabrina said so all the time. She just needs time, she'd say with that breezy smile that never quite reached her eyes. And because I wanted to believe her, I did. Love makes you believe things you shouldn't. There was one strange night, though. I woke up around 2 a.m. because I heard a car door outside. When I peeked through the blinds, I saw headlights down the street, then the shadow of someone slipping through the side gate. I was half asleep, thought maybe it was a neighbour. Sabrina was snoring quietly beside me. I didn't think much of it, but the next morning, Chloe wouldn't come down for breakfast. She just sat in her room, hugging her knees, staring at the wall. "Maybe she's sick," I suggested. Sabrina didn't even look up from her phone. "She's fine. Don't hover." The conversation ended there. I tried to push the unease down, but little moments kept stacking up. Chloe never invited friends over. She flinched whenever the doorbell rang. And once, when Sabrina was scolding her for not finishing dinner, Chloe muttered something I almost didn't catch. "He said not to tell." I froze. What was that? Chloe's head snapped up, eyes wide, like she'd just made a fatal mistake. Nothing. She shoved her plate away and ran upstairs. I wanted to ask Sabrina about it, but something in my gut told me not to. Instead, I just stared at the half-eaten spaghetti, feeling like I was missing something huge. Then came the business trip. Sabrina was leaving for 3 days to a real estate conference in Chicago. She packed her sleek black suitcase, kissed me goodbye, and told Chloe to be a good girl. She hesitated at the door, like she didn't actually want to leave us alone, but finally she went. And for the first 24 hours, nothing happened. Chloe barely spoke. She kept to her room. I figured I'd give her space, but on the second night, while I was folding laundry, she appeared in the doorway. "Ethan," she whispered. I turned, surprised. "Yeah." She was holding her school backpack tight against her chest, her fingers gripping the straps like they were the only thing keeping her upright. Her voice shook. I have to show you something." And right then, I knew. Whatever was inside that backpack, it was the thing I'd been sensing all along. I didn't move right away. The way Chloe was gripping that backpack, it was like it held something heavier than just crayons and worksheets. She didn't come closer at first. She just stood there in the hallway, pale, wide-eyed, her little fingers squeezing the straps so tight her knuckles turned white. "Okay," I said softly, trying to keep my voice calm, like I was talking to a wild animal that might bolt. "Do you want to sit down?" She hesitated, then stepped into the living room. She didn't sit on the couch, though. She crouched on the rug instead, knees pulled up, the backpack pressed against her chest like a shield. I'm not supposed to tell," she whispered. My heart stuttered. "Tell what?" She looked at me, then really looked like she was searching my face for something, maybe a sign that I could be trusted. Her eyes were wet, but not the kind of crying I'd seen before. It was relief, mixed with fear. "You won't leave if I tell you." That hit me like a punch to the chest. "Chloe, I'm not going anywhere. Ever. Whatever it is, you can tell me." She blinked rapidly, then finally, slowly, she unzipped the backpack. At first I thought it was just a piece of paper, a drawing. She slid it out carefully, like it might fall apart. It was done in crayon bright colors, childish lines. But it wasn't the kind of drawing you hang on the fridge. There was a little figure in a pink dress, clearly meant to be Chloe. Next to her was a larger figure with black scribbles for a face. No eyes, no mouth, just a chaotic blur. They were in a bedroom. The door was drawn shut. But what stopped me cold were the words. Across the top of the page, written in red crayon over and over again, "Don't tell. Don't tell. Don't tell." And in the corner, there was a speech bubble from the faceless figure. "If you tell Mommy, we'll leave you forever." I stared at it so long I forgot to breathe. My hands started trembling without me even realizing. I wanted to deny what I was seeing, to tell myself it was just some weird school thing, but deep down, I knew. I forced my voice to stay calm. "Chloe, who drew this?" She hugged her knees tighter. "Me." My mouth went dry. "And who is this?" I pointed to the black scribbled figure. She shook her head quickly, panic flashing in her eyes. "I don't know his name." I felt the room tilt like gravity had shifted. "He came here." She nodded slowly. "When Mommy wasn't home. He said I couldn't tell, or she would go away and never come back." I had to grip the edge of the coffee table to steady myself. My brain was screaming at me to do something, but I felt frozen in place. Does Mommy know about this?" I finally managed. Chloe looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd moved into that house, she really met my eyes. There was no hesitation in her answer. "Yes." That one word sliced through me. It was worse than I imagined. My chest tightened. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I swallowed hard, trying not to let my voice shake. "It's okay. You're safe now. I promise you're safe." She stared at me for a long moment, like she wasn't sure she believed me. Then she carefully set the drawing on the rug between us and whispered, Please don't let him come back. I reached for my phone without even thinking. My fingers fumbled as I unlocked it, dialing 911 before I could talk myself out of it. The operator answered so fast it startled me. 911. What's your emergency? I had to swallow before I could speak. It's my stepdaughter. She's 8. She just showed me. I think she's been hurt. Someone's been coming here when her mum is gone. Is the child safe right now? The operator asked calmly. Yes, I whispered, my voice cracking. She's safe. But she wasn't. Please send someone. Help is on the way. Stay with her. Don't leave the premises. When I hung up, I felt Chloe's small hand reach for mine. Her fingers were ice cold. She didn't say anything else. She didn't have to. We sat there in silence, the weight of the drawing between us like a storm cloud. And all I could think was, how long had this been happening? How many times had I missed the signs because I trusted Sabrina's smile? Minutes later, the sound of sirens in the distance made Chloe flinch. I squeezed her hand gently. It's okay. They're here to help. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I believed it yet. The sirens faded as they turned onto our street. Chloe stiffened her grip on my hand, tightening. It's okay, I whispered. They're here to help. No one's going to hurt you again. When the knock came at the door, sharp but not aggressive, I stood and opened it. 2 uniformed officers were there, flanked by a woman in plain clothes, with a laminated badge clipped to her jacket. Child Protective Services. Ethan Monroe, the lead officer asked. I nodded. My voice came out hoarse. She's inside. Chloe, my stepdaughter. They stepped in gently, not like a raid, more like they'd done this before, and knew they had to move slow. The CPS worker crouched low, her voice soft. Hi, Chloe. My name's Dana. Can I sit with you for a minute? Chloe didn't move at first, just watched her warily. Then, slowly, she gave the faintest nod. I handed the drawing over to the officer. He studied it carefully, his jaw tightening. Then he asked in a low voice, Did she say who this man is? I shook my head. She doesn't know his name, just that he comes when her mum isn't here. And she said, my voice cracked. She said her mum knows. The officers exchanged a glance. One of them pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. Sir, the other officer said quietly. Where's your wife right now, Chicago? Business trip. She left 2 nights ago. He nodded slowly. And you didn't notice anyone? Unusual coming around the house. I hesitated. A memory surfaced, headlights in the middle of the night, a shadow slipping through the side gate. I'd brushed it off. There was someone. A couple weeks ago. Late. I thought it was a neighbor. I didn't think... The officer tapped something on his phone again, then turned the screen toward me. Grainy security footage. It showed a man. Tall, slim build. Entering our neighborhood at 2:17 a.m. 2 weeks ago. He didn't knock. Didn't text. Just walked straight through the side gate like he belonged there. Like he knew no one would stop him. My knees almost buckled. You recognize him? The officer asked. I stared at the blurry image, but I knew. I'd seen him before. At Sabrina's open house events, at her work parties. Miles Grayson, I said. Finally, my throat dry. He's Sabrina's co-worker, a family friend. The officer's expression hardened. He has a key. I felt like I was going to be sick. She gave it to him, I whispered. She had to. No one else has access. CPS Dana was still talking softly to Chloe, her voice calm and reassuring. Chloe's shoulders slowly relaxed as Dana held out her hand. Sweetheart, we're going to take a little ride, okay? just to make sure you're safe and healthy. You can bring your backpack if you want." Chloe glanced at me, searching my face again. "I'll be right behind you," I said. She nodded faintly and slipped her hand into Dana's. I followed them to the door like I was in a trance. Outside, a patrol car idled quietly, its back door open. Chloe climbed in without a sound. Dana climbed in after her. The officer beside me lowered his voice. "Sir, we're going to need to access your security cameras. Any shared devices, phones, tablets. We need to see what else is in this house." I didn't hesitate. "Take whatever you need." Within minutes, they had pulled up Sabrina's old iPad, the one Chloe sometimes played games on. One officer scrolled silently, then stopped. "You're going to want to see this," he said. It was a hidden folder disguised as a basic calculator app. Inside were photos and messages, not just between Sabrina and Miles, but of Miles and Chloe. My stomach turned over. One message from Miles. "She doesn't say a word. I told her what happens if she does." Another from Sabrina. "Just be careful. Ethan's around more lately. I don't want him asking questions." And one final one time-stamped 2 nights ago, just before Sabrina left for Chicago. "She's still crying after your last visit. You need to cool it for a while. I'll be gone for 3 days. Do not go to the house while I'm away." My chest felt hollow. She knew. She didn't just know she was managing it, helping him. The officer looked at me carefully. "Sir, are you okay?" I couldn't answer. My brain was numb. I just stared at the messages until the words blurred. The CPS car pulled away, Chloe's small face barely visible in the back seat. And suddenly, the house felt empty, silent. The officer finally broke the quiet. "Mr. Monroe, we're going to need to talk about who exactly your wife has been letting into this home." I just stood there, numb, holding the iPad like it was a bomb. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant for your blood to run cold. Sabrina wasn't just careless. She was complicit. I felt something shift inside me then, something sharp and heavy. This wasn't just about protecting Chloe anymore. This was about tearing down every single lie Sabrina had built and making sure she could never hurt her daughter or anyone again. Sabrina's flight landed at 6:42 p.m. I knew because I watched the tracker on my phone, staring at the little plane icon inching toward the city. She called before she even left the airport. "Hey, babe." Her voice was bright, effortless. "Just landed. Can't wait to see you. How's Chloe been? Did she behave for you?" I stared at the phone like it was a snake. Behind me, the house was still in disarray. CPS paperwork on the counter. Officers quietly packing up their equipment. Chloe was already gone safe, and Sabrina didn't know. I didn't answer right away. My silence made her falter. "Ethan, you there?" I finally spoke, slow and deliberate. "Yeah, I'm here." Something in my tone made her pause. "Is everything okay? You sound weird." I stood by the living room window looking out at the quiet street. My hands were steady now. "I have a few questions for you." She let out a little laugh, like she thought I was teasing. "Okay, shoot." I kept my voice even. "Why does Miles Grayson have a key to our house?" Dead silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was sharp. "What I saw the footage," I said. 2:17 in the morning. 2 weeks ago. He used the side gate, didn't knock, didn't call, just walked in. "Ethan, I have no idea what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." My voice cracked for the first time. "Don't play dumb, Sabrina. I've got the texts, the ones you sent him. The ones where you said, 'She doesn't say a word.' The ones where you warned him not to come while you were gone. She inhaled sharply. You went through my private messages. I almost laughed. No. The police did. Silence, the kind that stretches and twists heavy, with all the words she didn't want to say. Then her tone changed, soft, panicked. Wait. Ethan, what are you saying? The police? What did Chloe tell you? She didn't have to tell me, I said quietly. She showed me. Another long silence. I could almost hear her mind scrambling on the other end. She showed you what a drawing? Her, him, in her room. And the words, don't tell, or Mommy will leave you forever. My voice cracked, but I kept going. She was crying every time we were alone. And you told me she just didn't like me. You made it a joke. Sabrina started crying. But it wasn't grief. It was the loud, performative kind, the same fake sobs she used when she wanted out of a parking ticket or a speeding fine. I didn't know how to stop it, she wailed. Miles said she was confused, that she was making it up. He made me believe it wasn't what it looked like. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles ached. You knew, Sabrina. You didn't just know you protected him. You handed him a key. You told him when you'd be gone. You told him what she said. She gasped. I was scared. I didn't want to lose my job. Miles threatened to ruin me. Ethan, you don't understand. Don't you dare, I cut her off. My voice dropped low, sharp as a blade. She's 8 years old. Your daughter. And you sold her safety for your convenience, for your career, for him. She was sobbing hard now, messy and desperate. I didn't want this to happen. I thought if I ignored it, it would stop. I felt something inside me snap. You ignored it, because it was easier, because it wasn't happening to you. Ethan, please, she begged. Don't tell anyone. We can fix this. We can work through this as a family. Just please don't ruin everything. I'm begging you. I closed my eyes. When I spoke again, my voice was calm, cold, final. It's already ruined. And I'm done protecting your lies. Then I ended the call. The room was silent, except for the quiet hum of the police radio. One of the officers glanced at me. We got everything we need? I handed him the phone, still recording. You got it all? He nodded. Good. She won't see it coming. Check us. Hours later, I got the update. Sabrina was arrested right there in the arrivals terminal. No warning, no chance to spin her story. She didn't fight. She didn't even ask about Chloe. And when they told her Miles was already under investigation for other cases when they said his arrest warrant was imminent, she finally stopped crying, because she knew there was no one left to blame. That night, the house felt foreign. I walked through each room, slowly noticing things I'd ignored before. The side gate latch that was always loose. The faint scuff marks on Chloe's doorframe. The little lavender bookshelf I'd built for her still half empty. It hit me like a wave. For months, she'd been living in a nightmare, and every time she cried, I'd let Sabrina convince me it was nothing. Never again. The next day felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's life from outside my own body. The officers had told me they'd wait for her flight to land. They wanted it public. They wanted her caught off guard, with nowhere to run and no way to spin a story. At exactly 6:42 p.m., I got the text from the lead detective, she's here. I pictured her stepping off the plane, her sleek black heels clicking on the glossy terminal floor, that confident smile she wore like armor still perfectly in place. She'd probably been rehearsing what she'd say to me on the drive home. Maybe she thought she could still talk her way out of it. But the moment she reached the arrivals hall, they closed in. 2 officers approached from either side. One read her rights, while the other gently took her wrists and cuffed them. People in the terminal froze, clutching their carry-ons and coffee cups, eyes wide. Phones came out. Strangers whispered. Someone filmed it. And Sabrina didn't fight, didn't yell. She just froze, that perfect smile sliding off her face piece by piece until there was nothing left. When they turned her toward the exit, her eyes darted around frantically. Maybe she expected to see me waiting there. Maybe she thought Chloe would be there ready to run into her arms. But no one came. She was alone. Two days later, it was Miles. He was dragged out of his real estate office in broad daylight, a swarm of reporters waiting outside. I saw the footage on the evening news, him in a tailored suit, face pale, trying to cover himself with his briefcase as officers led him to the car. Behind him, the screen door of his office swung open and shut in the wind, like even the building itself was spitting him out. Neighbors started whispering after that. Word spread fast. News vans parked at the end of our street cameras aimed at the White House with the lilac shutters our house. Sabrina's name was all over the headlines. Prominent realtor arrested for complicity in abuse. The phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Old friends from Sabrina's book club. Her co-workers. Even people I hadn't spoken to in years. Is it true, they'd ask. Did she really? I stopped answering. I did go outside once to grab the mail. Mrs. Green, the elderly widow who lived across the street, was tending to her rose bushes. She looked up when she saw me. There was something in her eyes, not just shock. Sadness. Maybe even guilt. I used to hear things sometimes, she said quietly, glancing toward the house. Late at night. Chloe crying. I thought it was just bad dreams. I should have said something. I didn't know what to say. So I just nodded, clutching the stack of unopened letters in my hand, and went back inside. So that night, after the reporters left and the street finally went quiet, I sat in Chloe's room. It was exactly as she'd left it. Her lavender walls, her stuffed animals lined up neatly on the windowsill. The bookshelf I'd built her half full, waiting for her to come home. I ran my fingers along the edge of her bed frame, remembering the way she'd looked at me when she asked, "You won't leave if I tell you I didn't leave." And I never would. The next morning, CPS called with an update. "Chloe is okay," Dana told me gently. "She's with a foster family for now, just until the medical exams are complete. She asked if you were coming to see her." I had to swallow hard before I could answer. Tell her I'll be there. Tell her I'm not going anywhere. Later that day, I drove past the courthouse. Sabrina was being led inside, her wrists cuffed in front of her. Her hair was messy, her face pale. Reporters swarmed her, shoving microphones in her face. "Did you know what he was doing? Why didn't you protect your daughter? Do you have anything to say to the victims?" She kept her head down, lips pressed tight, eyes empty. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked small, and I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. Miles's hearing was even worse for him. They found more evidence, encrypted files on his laptop. Chloe wasn't the only one. His bail was denied. Sabrina's was too. The system moved fast because the evidence was overwhelming. And through it all, Chloe stayed in protective care, away from the house, away from the memories. I drove home in silence, staring at the familiar streets of our neighborhood. The same kids rode their bikes on the sidewalks. The same dogs barked behind fences. From the outside, nothing had changed. But everything was different now. The house felt hollow without Chloe's presence. Even in her silence, she'd filled the space. Now it was just empty rooms, and a faint lavender scent in the air like a ghost of what should have been. But I didn't let that stop me. The day after Sabrina's bail hearing, I went straight to the courthouse, not for her, but for Chloe. I filed the petition for emergency custody. The clerk gave me a stack of forms, thicker than a phone book, each one with a different signature line. I didn't care how long it would take. She has no one else, I told the attorney I'd hired. No grandparents, no extended family. It's just me now. She deserves a real home. It wasn't easy. Social workers needed to visit, background checks, evaluations. Every question under the sun about my ability to provide a stable environment. I didn't mind. Every invasive interview felt like a step closer to keeping her safe. The first time I saw Chloe after everything, she was sitting on a couch in a small, warm foster home. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile, but when she saw me, her eyes lit up in a way they never had before. "Ethan?" she whispered, like she wasn't sure I was real. I crouched down so I was eye level. "Hey, kiddo." She hesitated, then threw her arms around my neck. For a second, she didn't say anything, just held on tight like she was making sure I wouldn't disappear. "I told you I wouldn't leave," I said softly. She pulled back, blinking up at me. Are you mad at me?" The question hit me like a sucker punch. Mad, Chloe? No. Why would I be mad? "Because I didn't tell sooner," she murmured, looking down. I was scared. He said you'd hate me if I told." I swallowed hard, forcing the lump in my throat down. "Hey, listen to me. None of this was your fault, not a single bit. You're the bravest person I know." She nodded slowly, but I could see she didn't fully believe it yet. Healing would take time. Over the next few weeks, we started to build a new rhythm. Therapy sessions twice a week. A counselor who specialized in childhood trauma. I sat in the waiting room, every time reading outdated magazines and memorizing the sound of the clock ticking. Afterward, she'd sit quietly in the car for a while before finally speaking. "Ms. Jenner says I'm allowed to feel sad," she said one day, staring out the window. "She's right," I said. "It's okay to feel sad, or angry, or anything." She thought about that for a moment. "But, can I feel happy too?" "Of course," I said, smiling. "You're allowed to feel happy whenever you want." And slowly, I started seeing glimpses of it. One afternoon, I came into the living room to find her at the coffee table with a box of crayons. She was drawing again. For a moment, my stomach clenched, bracing for dark scribbles. But this time it was different. She'd drawn a sunny park, a big tree, a little girl in a pink dress, holding hands with a man in a blue shirt, both smiling. She looked up at me shyly. "This one's us," she said. I had to bite my lip to stop the tears. "It's beautiful," I said. "Can I keep it?" She nodded. I taped it to the refrigerator. The first of many. At night, she still had nightmares. Sometimes she'd wake up crying, calling out for someone, sometimes me, sometimes just anyone. And I'd sit by her bed, rubbing her back until she drifted off again. But the flinches started to fade. The silence slowly lifted. And one morning, while we were making pancakes together, she actually laughed. A soft, shy sound, but it was real. I froze, spatula in hand, just listening to it. It was the first time I'd heard her laugh. Shatter. I knew we still had a long road ahead. The custody case wasn't final yet. Therapy would take months, maybe years. And the scars wouldn't just disappear. But for the first time, there was light. The courtroom was packed the day the verdicts came down. I sat in the second row, hands folded tightly in my lap, Chloe beside me. She held my sleeve the entire time, fingers clinging like she was afraid I'd disappear if she let go. Sabrina was led in first. Her hair was unkempt now, her once polished appearance faded into something hollow and grey. She didn't look at anyone. Not the judge, not the jury, and certainly not Chloe. Miles came in next, flanked by 2 officers. He looked thinner, his confident smirk long gone. He kept his eyes on the floor. The judge's voice was calm, but firm, as he read the sentences. Sabrina Cole, 15 years for child endangerment, conspiracy to facilitate abuse and obstruction of justice. Miles Grayson, 30 years, for multiple counts of aggravated assault on a minor. Neither of them reacted, not a single word. But when the gavel hit the desk, Chloe finally exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for months. It was over. Outside the courthouse, the reporters swarmed like bees, shouting questions. "Ethan, are you Chloe's legal guardian now, Chloe? How do you feel about the verdict? Do you have anything to say to other families going through this?" I shielded her with my arm, guiding her toward the car. "No comment," I said firmly. Because this wasn't for them. This was for her. A week later, the custody hearing was finalized. The judge looked at me over his glasses, his tone serious but kind. "Mr. Monroe, given the circumstances and your demonstrated commitment, the court grants you full legal guardianship of Chloe Monroe." I swallowed hard. "Thank you, Your Honor." Chloe squeezed my hand, a faint smile flickering on her face. Life after that wasn't magically perfect. Healing wasn't a straight line, it was messy. Chloe still had bad days, nights where the nightmares came back, mornings where she wouldn't speak. But the difference now was, she wasn't alone. I filled her room with sunlight, new curtains, soft blankets, little shelves for her toys. Her drawings slowly changed. No more scribbled black figures, no more red words screaming, "Don't tell." Now her papers were covered in flowers, sunshine, 2 figures holding hands, always smiling, one labelled me, the other Dad. One evening, we were watching cartoons on the couch. She was curled up next to me, her head resting against my chest. Her eyelids started to droop heavy with sleep. Just before she drifted off completely, she whispered, "Thank you for staying." I felt something in my chest break open, but in the right way this time. "I'll always stay," I murmured. "Always." Months later, I went back into her room while she was at school. I stood there for a moment, just looking. Sunlight poured through the window, warm and golden. Her stuffed animals were lined up neatly. On the walls, her happy drawings surrounded us like a shield. I thought about how far we'd come. How love isn't about blood or obligation. It's about choice. About showing up when no one else will. Chloe wasn't just my stepdaughter anymore. She was my daughter. Sabrina. She sat in a cold cell, her perfect suburban life gone forever. Miles would rot in prison, stripped of the power he thought he had. Justice didn't erase the pain, but it stopped the cycle. And for Chloe, that was enough. I taped another one of her drawings to the fridge that evening, a bright one with a big yellow sun. Above the 2 smiling figures she'd written in shaky but determined letters, "Home." And for the first time it really felt true. Sometimes the deepest wounds are the ones hidden behind quiet smiles and tidy lives. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about the courage it takes to see what's really in front of us, even when the truth feels unbearable. It reminds us that silence can be dangerous, and trust when misplaced can become a weapon in the wrong hands. But it also shows that love is not defined by titles or bloodlines. It's defined by showing up, protecting the vulnerable, and choosing integrity when it matters most. Injustice thrives in secrecy, in the moments when people look away, because the reality feels too heavy to face. Yet healing begins when someone is brave enough to say, enough. For anyone who has doubted their worth or questioned whether they deserve better, this story whispers that you do. True family is not about who shares your name, but who stands by you when no one else will. How did this story make you feel? Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment when the truth finally came to light after being hidden for too long? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. If this story resonated with you, hit like to show support for breaking the silence around injustice, and subscribe for more powerful, thought-provoking stories that reveal the strength of the human spirit. May this story remind you that even after the darkest nights, there is a way forward. Stay safe, stay aware, and hold on to hope,